When you wrap these, first when you cut your fillet, you know, if you're using the tail section of your fillet, it may look like this, fine. If you're in the belly section of your sardine, you got a perfect square, fine, whatever. Don't let that science wreck you, because it ain't gonna hurt nothing. If this is tailing out back here, that's just less scent going, but you're not outside your ½ inch, so it's not gonna affect the flow just because this is a triangular shape and this is a rectangle, okay? What you have to do is cut a split, okay? Cut the split, boom. The night before you go down, go out in the kitchen and tie as many of these. If you've got 10 plugs, tie them all up then. All right, I'll put my rubber gloves on. The reason why I use rubber gloves, guys, when you see the guides using them, my amino acids from my hands, the oils in my hands, do not transfer to a painted surface like this as easily as they do to eggs, shrimp, bait, anchovies, herring. So anytime you're handling bait, as a rule, be clean, wear your gloves, and you're not going to transfer those amino acids. In the springtime, not as critical, I promise you that, but just do it, okay? Now, what you want to do, a buddy of mine, he's an inventor, and mine's always ticking along. Well, what John did, you know the Crystal Light containers, where you got the packets, individual ones that stack in there? That's a perfect size for a K16. He shows up down there, and I've got these. I put them in a Rubbermaid container, you know. Well, the problem with that is the hook gets stuck into the next one here, or gets stuck in the magic thread, or whatever it is, and it's a pain. Well, he's got all his just dropped in the cooler, 7 of them or whatever, in these Crystal Light containers. Oh man, it's perfect. They got a lid on top. He pops it out, slides one out. It's been in there protected, away from all the elements, smells, and everything else. It's in his cooler, so it's cold. Pulls it out, hooks it up. Crystal Light container. It's perfect, all right? Now you can make them. Like you go to the pet store, you can get the clear plastic tubing, about that big around for cleaning your fish tank. They got caps for those. Make your own if you don't drink Crystal Light. Pre-tie them up. Now, when you slide that fillet in, you got the split in it, so you're sliding it up underneath like this. Now you've got your bobbin holder. You're going to love me for that one, trust me. Start at the head. And you don't want to do this while it's tied on because you got the line up there, right? All right, you've got to clip your line, just the plug by itself. Hold it, get it centered, wrap a couple times up towards the front, but not all the way. Wrap a couple times and go forward and back. And what that does is it locks that down. Okay? So you start, if your fillet, and I apologize guys for not having this thing, but if your fillet ends right here, you start your wrap here, you move forward, and then you move back. And all that does is lock that down when you go back across it. Now that magic thread is stretchy. So now what you do is you wrap towards the back, all the way towards your end, come back towards the front. When you get towards the front, now you've only got this much area to deal with. Then you throw a couple of half hitches in it. Okay? 2 or 3 is good enough. Pull it and break it off. Now you're fishing. You've got all these pre-tied before you go down to the river. I recommend on them about every 20 minutes. Changing them out. When I'm baiting for pike or anything like that, cut plugging every 20 minutes. By that time, you've already flushed all the good stuff out of there. Now, the more wraps you put on there, the more cuts you're making into the flesh, which is exposing more oil. So don't be afraid to wrap it. But just go towards the back, then back out towards the front, and then half hitch it. It's going to be a lot easier for you. Now, some of the things that you can do to your plug to spruce them up, you can see that. You're not going to buy one like that. Some of them now are coming this way, is a red hook. Some of my plugs have 2 red hooks on them. It's just one more addition to get the fish to go. Now, you guys all familiar with Buzz Ramsey? Cold water specialist guy, works for Berkeley now. He's like world-renowned salmon steelhead guy. What he does, and I talked to him because he's part of the pro staff guys, but what he does is he takes, you've seen the pink worms they use for steelhead? You seen those? Have you seen them? I've got some in the store when we leave out here, I can show you. It's a Gulp, and Gulp makes them, and then Power Bait makes them. But what he does, see how that top treble hook, when you hold it like this, see how that one's up? See that? What he does is come in and nose hook one of those pink worms back here, a 4-incher. Now that pink worm's whipping around as this thing's in there whipping around. And if you're in a concentrated area of people, that is one more thing that you have an advantage over them. Because trust me, by the time they get up there, they've seen a pile of these all the way from woodland all the way up. Okay, I guarantee it. So salmon fishing, anything you can give yourself to an advantage. So don't be afraid to put red hooks on. Don't be afraid to hook that worm back there. And now they make chartreuse ones too that you can put back there. But that's one of Buzz's tricks. Now, as with any fishing, you want to have super sticky hooks. Super sticky hooks. Well, that's a given. Here's what happens a lot of times when you're doing this. Just like when you're egg fishing. What you'll see sometimes is you'll see this. You'll see a bang, bang. And you never ever hold the rod. I don't want you to ever hold the rod. Put it in the rod holder and leave it. You'll see that plug working, doing its thing. You'll tell if it's got weeds on it because it'll quit swimming. Sometimes it'll be going and it quits swimming. You better get it out of the rod holder and set the hook. Because one has come up and grabbed it and it's just moving right on upstream. Okay, there's no more tension. So at any point in time when you see it stop swimming, set the hook. Guys see the tapping, bang. And this happens with egg guys all the time. The bang. Bang. And they see that bang and they immediately grab it, pull it, and they go to set the hook. If you're seeing that tapping, just sit there patiently. And your buddy, you got a bite, you got a bite. Yeah, I know. Then you wait for the rod to load up. Wait for the rod to load up. They're pecking. Yeah, it smells good, whatever. Boom, then they hit it. If it quits swimming, pick it up immediately. If it's tapping, leave it alone. Egg bite. When you're down there fishing eggs, tap, just leave it alone until it goes boom. Okay, same thing with plugs. So you have two bites. It quits swimming. Either you got moss or you got one on there. Gear-wise, guys, and I'm going to get to these other baits when you're doing this. Gear-wise, what do we say the water's doing? Maybe up to 50,000, slow and fast. Okay, Seth Burrell is a finesse fisherman. I'll go down to Ringgold with 17-pound test. I got wide open spaces and not a ton of current moving. I can get them, no problem. If they're 50 pounds, great. Down there, a 12-pounder at 50,000, you better have some muscle, okay? Because all he's got to do is go turn his head and act like a planer board out there, all right? Don't mess around. 30-pound test, whatever. The line don't matter because the water's stained. They're aggressive. They don't care. Okay, 30-pound back to your plugs. You better have the drag down pretty tight because when they hit, and if they decide to go, if you're allowing them to do that, they're going to go a long ways because they immediately turn and try to go downstream with the current because the current is an advantage to them. So you better have something with the brake on to where you're grabbing it going, man, are you serious? Yeah, I'm serious. Just leave it as it is. Okay, 8.5-foot rods, medium heavy, but the line, man, have some line. Because you'll be heartbroken because they will just, see you, buddy. Okay, heavy line. Now with the quicks, guys, if you fish with me, I don't fish snaps. Seth never fishes snaps. He's a finesse guy. Hey, 100-pound, good cross-lock swivel. Don't worry about it. They don't care it's on there. Down at Ringgold, those places, if I'm pulling a plug, I got a Rapal loop knot tied on there. No snap, finesse. There's not a clip hang. Springtime, they don't care. The nice thing about it is you pull it out 20 minutes, you clip it in, you get out your crystal light tube, you clip another one on and send it back. All right? So use the clips. The reason why I use the heavy ones is because the water's flowing hard and you got 30-pound tests and the brake on tight. A good cross-lock snap, not the kind that folds up into itself all nice and straight. You want the one with a J hook on it. Okay, 100-pounder, that's fine, not going to bother them. Plenty of current to make this thing swim. You have to be able to put the brakes on those fish. Now another setup that can work really well is obvious, just the magworts. Running back all by themselves. Magworts, what I like to do with these guys is typically you won't ever see the double hook. These are just ones that I bought and haven't used yet. I didn't bring the right box when I came. What I do with these is two things. I take all the hooks off. No hooks on there. Then what I do is I take a bead chain. I leave this split ring right here. I leave that split ring on. I would take this hook off. Now what I do is I have some of those, I think. We'll find them. You know that red hook on the back of that? That's called a super line hook. If you look for them, Gamakatsu, red super line treble. The super lines are the no stretch lines that we have. So when you set the hook, if you're using heavy stuff, you got a lot of power there. Well, you don't want to put some little weenie hook on this if you're going to do this, okay? So the red super line, it's a heavier out wire, stronger. So all these hooks are off. Now what I do is I take a bead chain. You know the bead chains? Like you use when you're salmon fishing. I got some over there. It's just a swivel like this. It's got a tie on this end, tie on this end, and it's got beads in the center. You use them for baits that spin a lot. Just keeps your line from getting twisted. I got some I can show you guys. You hook one of those up. So you got the bead chain hanging. Get another split ring. You can get it at the Sportsman's Warehouse, or you already have one here that you removed. Put this split ring on the end of that bead chain, then put that red super line hook on the bottom of that. So now what happens, this thing is naked, but you've got a bead chain coming back with that red hook sitting back here. Now it's very important that you tie that to the front. This front hook is the axis of this plug. If I tie back here, pulls it like this, there's no action at all. It has to go to this front tie. That's the axis, so it does not hurt the action. Now you can run it just simply like that, or what you can do is take a netting, spawn netting. You guys know what that is, where you put the eggs in and make the net. Make a spawn netting, and you can use eggs if you want. We like to use tuna fish and oil. Don't get Bumblebee, get Johnny Starkist. Okay, the cheapest stuff you can. And it has to be in oil, not in spring water. Reason being, the cheaper stuff is not as finely processed. They don't remove the fat veins out of the tuna by the lateral line. That's all in there. You look at Johnny Starkist tuna versus Bumblebee tuna. The Bumblebee tuna is a lot wider. Johnny Starkist got chunks of brown meat in there and everything else. There's more oil content, more natural oil content in that. So you tie up a small, it don't have to be this big ginormous thing, just a small tuna sack. Tie it up and then just come through and hook the sack so it's trailing on the back here. So now the plug's dancing around, you got the tuna smell coming off. Do you have to use tuna? No. Mike's Smelly Jelly, right underneath the bill right here. Don't put it on with a spatula, just a little bit on your finger right underneath. They smell in parts per billion, guys. It's phenomenal scent. So I see these guys just, no, just a little tiny bit. That does the trick, all right? So running those naked, thing off the back, and I've got a video over there that I can show you guys on that. And I apologize for not having the right stuff on that, okay? Now let's talk about color. One color versus the other. You can go to the quick section right now, any store you go to, and there's just a wall of color. If it's green, green, or green, or green and green, or green and green and green, you're okay. Okay? You're okay. Green, lime, chartreuse, green and chrome, whatever. Some of them have a dark green butt. Some of them only have green in the middle, whatever. Green and chrome. Reason being is the water's running at what, guys? It's running at 50,000. The water is no longer what? It's no longer clear. It's muddy. Chartreuse is going to stand out better in those conditions than our orange. Now, if we went down to ringgold, it would be a totally different story. Several colors, sometimes an all black with a little tiny chartreuse bud on it, whatever. Down there, they're aggressive, chrome and green. Don't blow a bunch of money getting 6 boxes of those things like I got. Chrome and green, that's it. I don't care what combination it is, you're fine. If you went down and you had clear conditions, like say earlier in the year, and those fish were showing up, but the water hadn't elevated yet, orange and chrome. That's all you need to know. Don't spend a ton of money. You can't go wrong with green and chartreuse, I promise you that. So those are the plug aspect of it.